Hi everyone. I am going to be bringing the fourth devotional for the week of Easter. So I am reading in Matthew 27 verses 1 to 2 and verses 11 to 31. When morning came, all the chief priests and the elders of the people took counsel against Jesus to put him to death, and they bound him and led him away and delivered him over to Pilate, the governor. Now Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus said, "You have said so." But when he was accused by the chief priests and elders, he gave no answer. Then Pilate said to him, "Do you not hear how many things they testify against you?" But he gave him no answer, not even to a single charge, so that the governor was greatly amazed. Now at the feast, the governor was accustomed to release for the crowd any one prisoner whom they wanted, and they had then a notorious prisoner called Barabbas. So when they had gathered, Pilate said to them, "Whom do you want me to release for you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is also called Christ?" For he knew that it was out of envy that they had delivered him up. Besides, while he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent word to him, "Have nothing to do with that righteous man, for I have suffered much because of him today in a dream." Now the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas and destroy Jesus. The governor again said to them, "Which of the two do you want me to release for you?" And they said, "Barabbas." Pilate said to them, "Then what shall I do with Jesus, who is called Christ?" They all said, "Let him be crucified." And he said, "Why? What evil has he done?" But they shouted all the more, "Let him be crucified." So when Pilate saw that he was gaining nothing, but rather that a riot was beginning, he took water and washed his hands before the crowd, saying, "I am innocent of this man's blood. See to it yourselves." And all the people answered, "His blood be on us and our children." Then he released for them Barabbas, and having scourged Jesus, delivered him to be crucified. Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the governor's headquarters, and they gathered the whole battalion before him. And they stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him. And twisting together a crown of thorns, they put it on his head and put a reed in his right hand. And kneeling before him, they mocked him and saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" And they spit on him and took the reed and struck him on the head. And when they had mocked him, they stripped him of the robe and put his own clothes on him and led him away to crucify him. I know whenever I'm reading the Bible, I typically relate it to what's going on in my own life, especially at a time like now, where I can honestly say I don't understand why this is all happening. Thankfully, as followers of Christ, we are able to trust that ultimately God is in control. Throughout this passage, Pilate seems to be trying so hard to find a way not to have to crucify Jesus. He asks him if he believes he is king in verse 11, to which Jesus responds, "You have said so." Then he asks Jesus, "Don't you hear all the things they are accusing you of?" But Jesus never answers. Then again, he tries to find another way to make it so that Jesus isn't crucified, by asking the crowd this time to make a decision and have them choose. Yet they choose Barabbas, a known criminal, or described in verse 16 as notorious prisoner. In the end, Pilate simply doesn't want to make this decision, and he says, "I'm innocent of this man's blood," and hands him over to the crowd. To Jesus' followers, this probably didn't make any sense, even though Jesus had very plainly told them this would happen. But they thought that Jesus, as the Messiah, was going to deliver them. They would have seen deliverance as the defeat of Roman rule. Yet, here we have him being sent to die on the cross, without even trying to defend himself, to the one earthly power who could set him free. Right now, it may seem like everything's out of our control and there isn't an end in sight. But as followers of Jesus, we can't say that, because we know even if it doesn't make sense and it's hard in the moment, God is ultimately in control. The best thing we can do is use this opportunity we have now to give people the hope that we have in Christ.